This evening, we're going to talk about record book, the updates that are available that have come down the line from the state office for 2021, and the ZSuites electronic platform, which is used for record keeping. And let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Jheri-Lynn. I am the Extension Program Specialist for 4-H and Youth Development in District 5. So while I'm going through this presentation, if you have questions, if you don't mind putting those in the chat box. So this evening, we're going to talk about how you can tell your story through using 4-H record books, share any updates that we have for 2021. And then I want to really focus on how to use ZSuites. It is a new electronic platform that was introduced last year, and it's a great way to enter your record book information and print it out with a lot more ease than the traditional forms have been in the past. So let's move right along and get into this program. And first, I want to share with you some resources that are available to help you when you're either putting your record book together or planning to implement a record book. And so the first one is the Family Guide to Texas 4-H Record Books. And you can download this document from the Texas 4-H website. And at the top of this slide, I have the website listed. It's texas4h.tamu.edu. And you go straight to the guide by adding the /record books /. And that will take you right to the section on our website that has all the information about Texas record books. This family guide not only helps you in preparing your record book, but it also gives you all the guidelines that are needed to complete your record book and put it together using the correct margins, font size, and so forth. So this is a very handy guide that you will definitely need to go ahead and take a look at and download to utilize when putting your record book together. The second resource is a check sheet that I've created to help you when you get ready to actually submit your record book. And by using this check sheet, you can ensure that all the guidelines have been followed that are outlined in this document that the state office has put together, and you haven't forgotten any important forms and other information that's needed in that record book. So when we get done with this presentation, I'm going to make this check sheet available to you, and I'll send that out via email. So this is just another resource to help you be successful in submitting and putting your record book together. First part of this presentation is on how to tell your story through Texas 4-H record books. So let's look at the purpose of a record book and the components that are required for a Texas 4-H record book. So first of all, the question I want to pose to you is, why do we have our youth keep a record book? So what is the purpose of this record book? The first purpose is to learn record keeping skills. Whether you're a youth or an adult, record keeping skills are an important component of life. You know, we keep records for tax purposes, our finances, in a variety of different things. And so this will help those youth to learn the value in record keeping and to perhaps discover a system that works best for them, because not everybody utilizes the same system in keeping their records. But you know, it's important to learn a system when you're young so that you can implement that same system or modify that just a bit when you become an adult. Secondly, we keep a record book so that we can set and work towards goals. Goal setting is very important in 4-H because, you know, why have a project if you're not going to have an end goal in sight? So setting those goals and working towards them is very important concept that is taught through 4-H. And then lastly, we have a record book so we can reflect back on those experiences, whether it was through our project development, our leadership, community service, and those different attributes that make our record book complete. The second part of keeping a record book that young people benefit from is it also helps them prepare for the process of completing academic scholarships and applications to college. So if they have their information in their record book, they can utilize that same information to complete those important documents that help them further their education. And then lastly, it is a competitive event, and those records are evaluated and they're judged across the state, first of all at the county level, then district, and then lastly at the state level, so that other 4-H members can have that opportunity to, see how they're doing and get that feedback from their judges. All right, so let's look at the categories in record books. In Texas 4-H, we have 25 different categories, project areas that a youth member can create a record book in. And so these are listed in the areas of agriculture, natural resources, family community health, our STEM projects, and then also leadership and citizenship. So there's a large variety of different categories that a youth can tailor their record book around. So the category that a child selects should be one that's most reflective of their main and most active project, because that will give them a complete story to tell in their record book document. And you can also review within that guide that I showed you earlier on the Texas 4-H website to see what the descriptions are for each of the categories. So before your child goes and starts creating the record book, it would be good to ensure that they're meeting the criteria that goes with each of those categories. So the first step in making your record book, is to set your goals. So here on the screen, I have a goal template that can be used to set those goals annually. And that's very important that every year the youth member reflects on what they did with their project from the following year and then looks at how they're going to make that project better or whatever their goals are as far as completing for that annual period. So these goal setting can be done in a variety of settings. So you can have your kids, if you're a club manager or a project leader, at the very beginning of the 4-H year, sit down as a group and work on setting their goals. Now, if it's a club, obviously you're going to have a variety of projects that are going to be addressed in a record book. So, that may look different for every child, but this is a great way, and something you could do at your first club meeting is to get those kids to think about what they're going to be focusing on their projects and what goals they want to meet for the year. You could also have the kids download this project form, goal setting form, and complete this at home, and maybe have a parent help them to write down all their goals. And then lastly, if you are an agent, maybe you're having an upcoming record book training, and if so, you could also have this template available so that parents and kids can take it and go ahead and set their project goals for the year. So this is a great way to start that compilation of a successful record book. So also within the family record book guide, there is a summary page, and it looks just like what is up here on the screen. And it shows what the different age divisions are. So you have juniors, which are grades 3 through 5, intermediates, grades 6 through 8, and then our senior age division youth are grades 9 through 12. And so this summary sheet is a way that you can look at what is the different parts of a record book and what is needed, whether there's a minimum requirement of page numbers or entries, or maybe a limit on the number of pages that need to be in each of the particular sections. So utilize this form that's in the record book guide, and that will help you to keep on track as far as completing your record book. So a record book consists of information over a 4-H member's years that they're in 4-H. And it also documents their goals, their knowledge and skills gained, their leadership experiences. Also, there's an area for them to showcase any awards they've earned and the service that they've provided to their community. So these records are recorded in the form of a narrative for some of the sections. One section is a story and photo portfolio that's written by the member, and there's also a variety of forms, and we're going to talk about those all in part in just a moment. So after all this information is collected, it is printed and then it's bound in a 4-H record book cover, and then usually it's submitted for evaluation or judging. So what makes up a Texas record book? There's 4 main parts, and all 4 parts are required for the 3 different age divisions. And so those are a check sheet, a personal information page, your 4-H story and photo portfolio, and then your record book forms. So these are all the parts that go into a record book. And so make sure, and this is something that changed, I believe 2 or 3 years ago, but we only have 1 set of forms in each record book. So in the past you had year after year, but now it's 1 set of forms and all the information over, whether that's a 3-year period, a 10-year period, whatever the length of the time your child has been in 4-H, then that is submitted. And so you can also, within that record book, put up to 4 different projects. We're going to talk about how we incorporate those different projects and how those are shown in and showcased in the record book. Okay, so the first 2 parts of the record book is going to be the check sheet and your personal information page. Well, both of these pages are not judged, but they are required. And so your check sheet is actually like your signature page. So it says that your record book is ready to be evaluated, whether at the county level, the district, or the state. So there are check boxes and a place for somebody like your county agent, somebody at the district, and then obviously at the state, they would sign off on this too. So it's just a check to ensure that you've got all the 4 parts to your record book and all the sections. Some districts, when a record book is submitted and it goes on to district, if you're missing a section or you're missing one of the parts, then your record book is not eligible to be judged. So it's very important that you check to make sure you have all 4 parts and all 7 sections of your record book at all levels of evaluation. Your personal information page is just to let us know what your name is, your county, age division, and some basic demographics. So that is there, and there's also a place for you to sign if you're a child off on your record book, your parent, and then also your county agent. So make sure all 3 of those signatures are complete on these forms before they get submitted. Okay, any questions so far? All right, well, let's talk about the first major section of our record book, and that is our 4-H story and our photo portfolio. So the story should focus on information from your current 4-H year. However, it can include information from your previous years also. You can have a title that says My 4-H Horse Project or My 4-H Photography Project. Whatever your project focus is on, that should be the title of your story. You can have a subtitle also if you would like, but that is, the main part, the first page of your story. You should also include information about yourself, your family, and your community, when and why you joined 4-H, and what your project's goals are. So if you use that template that you filled out to lay out your goals for the year, you can just transfer that information right into your 4-H story, and it's a great tool to help you get started in writing that narrative. All right, also one last thing. Let me go back to that page because I forgot an important point about our photographs. So within your story, you can have photographs. You can either incorporate them within the narrative portion, or you can add them at the end of your story. That is fine either way, but make sure that your pictures show action. So the judges want to see you doing something that goes along with your project. So if you're a record book focused on, say, beef cattle, well, then maybe you could have some pictures of you trimming hooves, or cleaning your steer or heifer, and those types of things. But just having a beautiful picture of you standing there showing your heifer or your steer doesn't necessarily show any action. So you working with your project is a great way to document and showcase what you've learned within your project. All right, the first section of your record book after your story should reflect your 4-H project experiences. So this is where you can list all those cool and neat things that you have done and learned in your 4-H project. This is your opportunity to tell the world, look at what I've been doing in 4-H. You can include activities such as workshops, contests, tours, any research you've done on your project. Maybe you've taken an online computer program to learn about your project. You've studied particular material. Maybe even you've done an interview with somebody that works in that field. All that information can be included in this first section under 4-H project experiences. These learning activities can be completed in a project setting, or it may be the result of something you've done independently and by yourself, and that's fine too. Or maybe it's something you've done with another youth or community organization, but they need to all connect back to 4-H in your project. So report that learning that took place in your project. Okay, so just to clarify what a learning experience is. So a learning experience are those activities in which a 4-H member has become a participant and is not the teacher or instructor. So you are gaining knowledge from participating in that project. And what knowledge have you gained? So that's the question you're going to answer within this section. Okay, so any type of leadership experiences need to be listed in the next section, which is leadership. So even if it's a volunteer leadership program in 4-H, then that's where you would list it in section 2. And you just reserve section 1 strictly for your main 4-H project that your record book is focused on. All right, any questions on what goes in section 1? Okay, let's look at section 2. And this is where your leadership experiences are listed. So everything done in 4-H is at a particular level. And the form is going to ask, was this leadership activity done at the club, county, district, state, national, or even international level? And so there are codes that are used, and they show up on the form. And you can put, for instance, if it's a club learning experience, you're going to use the code CL. If it was something you did at, say, the state, you're going to use the code S. So all that information is provided on that form, and you just have to type in which of those levels that experience took place at. So it's important when you're doing your record keeping to keep up with what level that those activities took place at. So your 4-H leadership experiences are the most important things that tell others how the member's been involved in teaching and leading. So you have 2 pages that you can tell about those leadership experiences. So you should be able to demonstrate as a 4-H'er different areas of leadership in promotion, volunteerism, whether you're elected to a position or maybe you're even appointed. So those are all areas of leadership that you can explain on these pages. So promotion leadership explains how you've told somebody about 4-H. Maybe you had an activity in which you wore a 4-H t-shirt to school, or you had a picture taken and it was put in the newspaper and you're marketing 4-H that way. Maybe you had an opportunity to do a PSA on the radio and in which you were talking about 4-H, or maybe even riding on a 4-H float during a parade. All those are promotion. Another way you can think about it is marketing. How did I market 4-H or my 4-H club for others to learn about the program?
Hey,
Volunteer leadership.
Jheri-Lynn, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. There's a question I wanted to. I'm looking in here. There's a question in the chat. It says something. Riley Beaver. In this section, we have gone to bullets. In the project experiences section, they're going to bullets over paragraph. What are we supposed to do? Can we get examples of the bulleted pages?
Okay, yes, that's a great question. So when you go to write either your story or when you do your forms, you can choose to either write it in a narrative, that means in a paragraph form, kind of like if you think about like an essay where you're writing sentences and you're telling about your activity in that type of format. So you can do narrative, you can actually do bullets like you were just mentioning, where it's just short information. And bullets are a great way for a person that's reading or evaluating your record book to follow along. And then lastly, another great way to showcase your skills in the document is to create a table. And sometimes that's the easiest way to read what somebody has posted in their record book. So any of those 3 ways are perfectly fine and they're all acceptable. So what you need to think about when you decide on how to enter your information is what is the easiest way for the person that's evaluating or judging your record book to get a great idea of what you've done in those different areas. So sometimes that's a narrative. Sometimes it is the bullets, and sometimes it's quicker to look at a table. So, just understand that when record books are being judged, there is a limited amount of time that the judges are able to spend on each record book, and they want to get a good understanding of what you've done in all of those different sections. So I think that the best way is either bullets or a table, because you can put a lot of information in both of those formats and it's easily captured and understood by the evaluator. So does that help answer your question?
She said yes.
Okay, great. So let's look back again at the different descriptions of leadership and what those entail. So we talked about promotion, and that's your marketing. The next is volunteer leadership. So that should explain how and what did I do to lead or teach others in 4-H. And some examples of volunteer leadership would be if you were asked to lead the Pledge of Allegiance at a 4-H meeting. That would be volunteer leadership. Maybe you demonstrated how to measure tablespoons at a 4-H club meeting, or maybe you even organized a 4-H workshop, or you've given a presentation on a specific topic. All those are considered volunteer leadership activities. The next is elected or appointed. So this type of leadership explains, what did I do to improve 4-H? This includes leadership in volunteering to serve on a committee, or maybe in your club meeting, you're asked to bring refreshments and you're on that refreshment committee and you've helped to organize who's going to do the refreshments. Well, that would be something that you were elected or appointed to do. Also, if you're serving in any elected office, such as maybe you're the president or you're the reporter or treasurer of your local 4-H club, or maybe even you're serving on your county 4-H council or the district or state council, or maybe you're an ambassador, like a shooting sports ambassador or a healthy Texas ambassador. Those are all elected or appointed positions that can be highlighted in this leadership section. So if you do a type of leadership that occurred while performing a community service activity, that goes under community service in the next section, section 3. So all your leadership that's under section 2 is going to be related to what you did within 4-H and those leadership experiences. Okay, let's look next in section 3, and this is going to be our community. So community service is an opportunity for 4-H members to go out in the community and help others, or even improve the quality of the town and the lives of the people around you. So how do you know if what you're doing is considered community service? Ask yourself, what did I do to help other people because of 4-H? Y, which stands for yourself. So if you use that code, you're saying this was a community service project all by myself with no help from other 4-H club members or a club. You did this independently. P is the code that you use if you provided primary leadership. That means you organized that community service project, you made the arrangements, and maybe you recruited other 4-H members to help you. And then lastly, the code M is member of a, when you ask another 4-H member to help or called you asking for help, and you were there as a worker and a helper for that community service project. So this section is community service activities only. The record book is citizenship. Then look in the family guide because there's more information on how you document those citizenship activities when they are a community service project too. So let's look at what the difference is between leadership and community service. This is a question that's asked a lot of county agents on coding and putting in your leadership and benefits and organization outside of 4-H. So just think about it in those terms. If I did something to benefit 4-H, it's leadership. If the activity I did benefits a community and it's outside of 4-H, then that is considered community service. All right, any questions on section 3 before we go on to the next section? Okay, so let's look at section 4. In section 4, we're going to list other 4-H projects. So in your first section, you listed your main project. And so this is an area of projects that you did not talk about in section 1. So these are not your main project areas, okay? But these are other projects that have enhanced your 4-H experience. So in this area, you can summarize those project knowledge and skills gained and, talk about what you've done in the last 3 4-H years. And there is a limit to this section. So if you're a junior, you have 1 page, and intermediates and senior age division youth have 2 pages to talk about those other 4-H projects. All right, section 5 is where you get to showcase those awards and any type of recognition that you've received in 4-H. So awards and recognition is an important part of 4-H. They provide an opportunity for our 4-H members to be recognized for their hard work and dedication to a 4-H project. Also, to leadership and community service activities, and of course, for being the best all-around 4-H member. So this is a great place to, kind of show what you've learned and not only what you've learned, but how you've been recognized in your 4-H project. All right, let's look at the next section. Section 6. This is going to be an area where you can list all your non-4-H activities. Okay, you have 1 page, so you'll probably need to summarize. But this section allows you to show off any school activities, church, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, other youth organization activities, maybe leadership in other organizations, community service, and awards and recognition side of 4-H. So this would be a good area. Maybe you've received a medal at school for reading, or maybe you are on the swim team and so you need to think about, what have I done as of today to work towards my future career? What am I going to do in the future? How has 4-H and non-4-H activities helped me learn more about careers? Or what type of education do I need to enter a career of my interest? So maybe this could be you've gone to a presentation by a professional in your field. Maybe you've done an interview with somebody. Perhaps you've gone on a tour, or you've done some job shadowing, research. Maybe you've had an opportunity to mentor somebody or be mentored. Maybe even you have some work experience. Maybe you've done something after school to help you explore what that job might look like in the future. And you develop skills, or perhaps you've even gone ahead and taken some coursework so that you can learn better what that education or what that field of study would entail. So that is all listed there. And believe it or not, even as a junior, you can start exploring what you want to do as far as furthering your education. And that doesn't mean just your traditional college. That could be a trade school also, or a technical school. So this is where you list all that information. And one question that I get often is, what if my family owns an industry? Say maybe my family owns some chicken houses and they're part of the poultry industry. And that's something that I want to do when I get done with high school and I want to go into the poultry industry just like my parents are in. And so maybe you have an opportunity to help in that industry at home in your chicken houses. And so you can list that in this area too. Whatever it is that you're doing to help your family, but also explore future career opportunities for yourself. So does anybody have any questions on the sections that go into the form portion of a record book? Okay, well, let's do a little practice, and y'all can put your answers in the chat box, or you can also unmute your microphone and join in. But we're going to do some short activities and practice putting these activities in the different sections of our record book. All right, so our first activity is, what if we donated 5 large boxes of school supplies to the Boys and Girls Club of Nacogdoches? So would that go under leadership, community service, project experience, or a non-4-H activity? Arvita, let me know when they've got an answer.
All right, Laracio says community service. Yolanda Evans, community service.
Well, y'all are correct.
Yay!
Community service. So if you were trying to decide, okay, does this go under leadership or community service? Well, you were participating in an activity that benefits an outside organization, and so that would go under community service. Good job. Let's look at another activity. Okay, so 4-H open house. So you advertise, plan, and promoted 4-H. Maybe you even made some plant pals, you had some carnival games, and you provided popcorn, and you reached over 500 people. So which of these activities would this go under in your record book? Do we have any answers?
All right, Yolanda Evans says, well, she has, I think she says leadership, and Laracio says leadership as well. And I say leadership too.
Okay, well, you three are correct.
Yay!
That goes under leadership. So you are working to promote 4-H. And so because it is an activity that's promoting 4-H, it would go under leadership. Absolutely. All right, let's look at another one. I volunteered to set up chairs and tables for 50 people at 2 Rotary Club meetings. So which of these 4 areas would that fall under?
Okay, Yolanda Evans says leadership. Laracio says non-4-H activity. And Riley Beaver says non-4-H.
Okay, this one's a little tricky. So let's look and see. It's actually community service because you went in as just a 4-H member and you were helping the Rotary Club. So that's an organization outside of 4-H. So that could be considered a community service where you were helping somebody else. Okay, you could also put it down as a non-4-H activity if maybe if you are a member of Rotary, then or the junior Rotary program, then that could be considered a non-4-H activity. So sometimes the activities that we do can fall under more than one area. And so you put it where you feel that it meets the best definition. Okay, so we wouldn't necessarily put it in our record book 2 times, but we would list it 1 time under one or the other service areas. Okay, let's look at the next one. So you completed 6 swim team practices. You learned how to control your breathing and improve your time. So where would that fall? Where would we list that in our record book?
Riley Beaver said, I thought that didn't go in record book.
Well, actually it can.
Yeah, because it's a non-4-H activity.
There we go. Miss Arvita's giving away our answers here. That's okay. So yes, that would be a non-4-H activity. So in the section where you can list those non-4-H activity, remember you can put anything that you've done in school, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, of course, other youth organizations, church, and so forth. So that's your area to list those non-4-H activities. So that would be a great area to list your swim team activities in. Okay, so You served as a 4-H club president, you conducted 9 club meetings, you planned activities and prepared agendas for 68 members. So where would we list this activity?
Okay, wait. Okay, I believe, let me see, Yolanda Evans, Healthy Living Project leadership, Riley Beaver leadership, Horatio leadership.
Congratulations, you're right. This would be leadership. Remember, the items that you list under leadership all relate back to 4-H.
I apologize, Yolanda. She was referring to healthy living for the swimming question.
Gotcha. Okay, but that would be a non-4-H. But if you were doing swimming and you did that as part of your project experience that went with, and you did it as a 4-H activity, then that could go under your project experience. All right, last practice. So we toured a goat breeding facility and learned about feed management and the feeding program. So where would this fall?
Project experience. Horatio, project experience. Riley Beaver, project experience. Arvita, project experience.
Yay, project experience. That's right. So I'm assuming from this entry that this person had the GOAT project as their category. And so, yes, that would go under your project experience. You know, if that was something also you were going to explore for a future career, you could also put that under your college and career exploration section too. Okay, so that was some good practice. So let's look at the scorecards, what judges look for when they're evaluating the record book. So record books that are submitted for competition are evaluated based on project work, leadership, community service, awards, and non-4-H activities. So these scorecards are also in the Family Guide on the Texas 4-H website. So you can look at those to see what the judges will be evaluating your record book on. So primarily a record book is judged on content with an emphasis placed on the quality of the members' experiences, activities, leadership service, and accomplishments. So when a judge or somebody who's evaluating your record book looks at it, they take into account the details in relation to how long you've been in 4-H. So if you've been in 4-H for 8 years, you're going to have a lot more experience and a lot more information than somebody that just started 4-H this last year. So you can also enhance your 4-H project learning experience by participating in activities beyond your 4-H club and project. For example, maybe you want to go to a showmanship clinic that's sponsored by the Beef Cattle Breed Association. You know, if you're doing a project in connection with the Beef Cattle Project, then that might be a good activity to enhance your project learning. So this learning, if you went to that clinic, the learning took place and the practice of showing the cattle goes into your 4-H project and can be reported on that form. So on the other hand, if you compete in the showmanship competition sponsored by the Breed Association, that would be listed as a non-4-H activity because that activity was not sponsored by project experience page. All right, any questions on what the judges look for? Okay, so we're going to switch gears just a little bit, and we're going to now talk about updates to record book for 2021. So this is for any record books you're starting to work on during this 4-H year, which started September the 1st, 2020, and goes through August 31st of 2020. So I'm very excited to make this announcement, so wait for it. No changes for 2021. So anybody that was sweating some major changes, guess what? Nothing has changed. So if you've already worked on your record book maybe last year or in previous years, then just continue on what you're doing because nothing has changed. Anybody happy about that? I know I am. All right, so let's move on now and look at ZSuites. So before we start diving into that program, I want to ask this question. So what do you find most challenging about record books? Or another way to look at this is, if you could change something about record books, what would it be? And just a little side note, not submitting a record book is not a choice. So, any feedback on what you find challenging about record books? Arvita, are there any comments, any feedback on the challenges of record books?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, so everybody feels like record books are easy to do, correct? I bet you've probably have had
Nope.
some challenges. What's that?
Yolanda Evans says a lot of time.
Yes, time is definitely a challenge that our youth members have in putting a record book together. Absolutely. That's a good point. So that's probably the number one response. And then the second response that I get a lot is that it's difficult to keep up with all the activities that a young person is doing and then recording those activities. You know, how do we put those down on paper or keep up with those? And that's where record keeping comes into play. So we're going to talk about record keeping utilizing ZSuites to help us. All right, so how often should you record your notes when you attend an activity, an event, or a contest? So once a year, when you go to put your record book together, monthly, or every time you attend a 4-H or an activity, event, or contest? Just put your answer in the chat box. Yearly, monthly, or every time you go to an event?
I think Yolanda may have said was talking about starting early is the best thing to do.
Absolutely.
Riley Beaver says we do the calendar too.
Okay, those are great record keeping methods and they work for a lot of people. But the answer is after every activity, event, and contest, you should make a note, whether you're putting that in your calendar, your computer, on a piece of paper, but you need to document every time you have something that you want to put in your record book, because I promise a year will fly by very quickly. And when you go to work on your record book, no one wants to be scrambling, trying to remember those activities that they participated in. Because if you do, if you don't document it anywhere, you don't keep any records, then it's very easy to forget what you've done over a year. So make a notation after every activity, event, or contest. So let's talk about keeping records. So we started with goal setting back at the very beginning of this presentation, where you use your template to write down what you hope to accomplish for that year in 4-H. So utilizing that goal template form, that will help you get started with your record book, and also is the beginning of your record keeping process. All right, and then collecting that information. And you mentioned some of the ways you collect information. You have to find the system that works best for you and your family, because not everybody collects information in the same way. But some examples that you could use would be a calendar. Maybe you have an index box with cards and you make a notation of each of those activities on a separate card. Maybe you have an app on your phone that you can record that information, or even on the computer. Maybe you use a spiral notebook and you write those things down. And then lastly, which I'm going to show you how to use tonight, is ZSuites, which is a great electronic your records collected. You can reflect back and you can look at, what did I learn from this project? Did I meet my goals for the year? Did I have any obstacles? Did I grow in my project learning experience from one year to the next year? Did I have an impact on my community or my club by being involved in this project? And then what experiences that I had in my project influenced my future career and maybe even my future college choices? So using records can help you do those three things: goal setting, collecting information, and reflecting back on your project. So let's look at a couple of goals in using ZSuites. The first purpose of ZSuites was to simplify our process for entering record book information, and then using ZSuites as a way to keep up with your records electronically. So we're going to look at how you access ZSuites, how you set up your family profile, your child enters their record book information, 4h.zsuite.org. And in this area, you're going to set up your login information with your email and your password. It's also going to ask for a 4-digit PIN, and this is so that you can access that electronic platform. And then you're going to register your household, because sometimes there are households that have more than one child that's in 4-H. You're going to add your profile as that primary parent that's overseeing that ZSuite platform for your house. And then you can enter your what they call club members, but those are also your biological kids, so don't get that confused if you're a club manager too. So this is where your kids enter their information for their particular record book. So let's go on and look at how you set up that profile. Also, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I will send you my slides so that you can go through these step by step and set up your own ZSuites household platform after we're done with this program. So again, you go to the ZSuite website. It's going to ask you to create a new account, and this is what the dashboard looks like. It's got the login and sign up. So if you already have a ZSuite account established, you would just go to login, and it would ask for your password and your 4-digit PIN. But if you are new to ZSuites, you'll need to sign up first. So you'll click on sign up, and that will take you to the ZSuite homepage. All right, so you will register your household. So each household has a primary account, and this primary account is under one email address. So whichever parent or grandparent, whoever is overseeing the record books for your family, you need to enter their adult information there, their email address, okay? So also it's going to ask you to put in your 4-digit PIN code. So this will assure you as a parent that no one else can get into your child's record books except for you and the kids that are associated with your account. So once you've set that up, you hit the Let's Go button or home dashboard. All right, so this is what your dashboard will look like. You can see this is the one I set up for my household. And this is also where you view your record books that are created by your biological children. And you can also view announcements from your club, county, and anything that comes out from the state. It will show up on the dashboard. Also, there's a calendar that you can enter events on. So maybe your child has a project meeting, or they have a clinic they're going to, or you want them to complete a section of their record book and schedule that on the calendar, then this is where you would set that up. So this dashboard is very handy. It does more than just function as a record keeping system for record books. All right, so going on from our dashboard, we're going to now add our club members, which are our children, to the profile. So all the children in your house that are going to be creating a record book, you enter their profiles individually in this area. And so that way your children can independently look at their record books, but they cannot go into, say, their siblings' record book and maybe have fun adding some additional information, or even maybe taking away some information. So that's why you have the 4-digit PIN, so that restricts them from getting into other people's record books except for. So this is where, again, you enter that member, the 4-H member's information, their birth date, what club that they're associated with. There's also a place that you can download a picture from your computer of them, or maybe even use an avatar, and there's a whole list of avatars. I'll show you that in just a moment. And then they can, after they've entered their profile information, or you've set up their profile information, they can start adding their record book information at this point. Okay, any questions? So we're going to walk through the steps of how to put in your club member profiles.
No questions.
All right, so you've got your primary account, you've got your dashboard, so now we need to put in our children so they can get started with their record book entry and keeping their records. So you click on the Household Members tab, and it's on the left-hand side of the screen. And then right in the middle of the screen will be this green button that says Household Member, Add a Household Member. So you're going to click on that button, and you're going to get this member screen. So you're going to enter your child's first and last name, whether they are a club, to have access to those record books. So maybe you've got another parent that's going to help, or a grandparent, then you can set them up as a member with a profile so that they could help those kids with their record books, the birthday of your child, and then you will add the club. So when you hit the green button that says add your club, you're going to have all the clubs that are chartered for your county. So when your child's club is chartered by the county office, all those clubs will show up right there. Okay, So you click on your child's primary club, and then where the little photograph is, the silhouette, you can click on that, and that's where you download from your computer a picture that you want that represents your child, or maybe even your child's picture if they want that. Or you can click on the little button underneath where it says avatar, and there's about 15 avatars that pop up that you can select from to utilize in the place of a picture if you want to. Once you're done, you hit the save button, and then that will take you back to your list of members that are in your household. And you'll see your new household member that has been added. And then their avatar will also come up, and you can see that from the bottom of my slide. So when you log in, you'll be able to select your member's profile to edit any data that's specific to that particular person, that child. And you can see up here on my screen, I've got 2 kids that have profiles set up. I have Jim and William, and I'm using avatars for their pictures. Okay, so now let's look at how we actually do the record keeping. So be sure that when your child is entering their information, they're in their profile. So if you, as a parent, you want to add something to their record book, you need to switch users, because when you log in, you're logging in as yourself, as the parent. So you'll need to switch, and I'll show you how to make that switch in just a moment from the dashboard, but switch to whichever child's record book the information needs to be added. Then you're going to add a record book. If it's a new record book, complete that information, save it, and then you can review all sections of the record book. And when you need to add information to that record book section, you just add data. So let me show you how to do those steps. All right, so I've created a record book for my child, Ashlyn, and this is what her little avatar is, the pig, because she was in the swine project. So I would click on her avatar, and when I do that, it switches. You can see on the left-hand side, it says Ashlyn Aljo. So that means I have switched from my user profile as Jheri-Lynn McSwain to Ashlyn Aljo. So also on that left-hand side, next to her name, there's a little down arrow. So when I click on that down arrow, it shows me who has access to that record book, and it's going to show me her name and my name. So that's where you switch users. So whichever user is up on the screen on the left-hand side is the person that can enter that information. So another helpful tip that you can see is right under your county name, there is your county agent's name. So because I registered my child in Shelby County, because that's where we live, it automatically populates to the county agent that is the 4-H coordinator in your county. And you can see up on the screen, it shows Felicia Thompson. So that is the agent that oversees 4-H as a coordinator in my county. So if I have a question about my record book and I'm not sure on maybe where something goes, or if I should include a particular activity, I can click on that little blue envelope and it will open an email, and I can email Felicia and get my question answered very easily. I don't have to try to remember what my county agent's name is and their email address. It automatically populates that information for you. So that's a quick, handy way to contact your county agent through ZSuites. All right, underneath that information is the club that my child is a participant of, and I just listed and picked 4-H Horse Project. And then under there is their account ID number that's associated with ZSuites. So if you had a technical issue that you needed the ZSuites programmers to help you with, by having that account number, that would be an easy way for them to access your account and help you with that technical issue that you're having. We need to add a record book. So when I'm in my daughter in Ashlyn's ID, I've switched over to her ID, and you can see that on the left-hand side. So I need to click on the green box that says add a record book. You click on that, and it's going to take you to the record book screen. There it's going to ask you what the project name is, what age division your child is in, what grade they're in, and it'll give you the 3, junior, intermediate, and senior. So you just select from the drop-down menu which one your child is in. You don't need to worry about record book type because in Texas we only have one kind. Your club, what the category of your project is, and when your child started in that project. After you've entered that information, you hit the blue Save button, and then you are ready to start entering your record keeping data for your record book. So as soon as you add that record book, on the left-hand screen, you will have all the sections of your record book displayed. So you can go between the different sections and add data, and you don't have to have the whole record book pulled up at one time. So it makes it just an easy way to flip from section to section. So you can see right here, it's got the 4-H story listed, your member page, your project experiences, leadership, and these are all the 7 sections all the way down, starting with project experiences. Last weekend, and I delivered some food on behalf of my family to a food pantry, and that is considered your community service. And so you want to add that activity so you don't forget about it. So you would just go under community service section, click on the green button that says add service, and a template would come up where you would add the date, what the level of importance, and that's going to be 1 through, let's see, if you're a senior, you have 25 entries that you can put. So it would be a number 1 through 25, and you pick the most important. If that was the most important activity that you did in community service, then that would be ranked as number 1. So that means it's going to be printed as the first entry on your community service page. So you would pick your level of importance, what your role was in doing that community service, what the activity was, and what the impact was on the community. So these are going to be entered one at a time, and as you add those, it's going to ask you to save it, and you save it, and then it will give you that opportunity to add another service to that page. So after you have those entered, then when you go to the print, all 25, if you have 25 entered or 15, whatever the number is, will be displayed on the actual record book form in the correct format for you. So it does the work. You're just entering the data. It's kind of like a data entry tool, if you want to think of it that way. Also, there are forms like your record book story that is in just a blank page. And so that's going to be, it's not going to give you those sections like it does on the community service because that is an actual table format. But when you're doing your story, you can either put that in your narrative form, your essay format. If you want to use bullets at that point, you can, or tables. But that is basically a blank page for you to add your stories and your photographs in that section. Uploading pictures, that is an important component of our 4-H story and photo portfolio. So you can upload any picture that you've saved to your computer or your phone. So what you do is you go into wherever you've saved that. If you saved it under pictures on your computer, you go to that file and you click on the picture icon. I'm going to show you that, and it will download that picture into your story. This year, they've added a sizing component. Last year, this was not there. So now, when you enter that photograph, it comes up with the 6 little squares, the handles on the sides of your photograph, so you can actually make that picture smaller or larger within your story, which is a very useful tool and will help you so that so your pictures are the correct size that you need, so you don't go over your limit of pages in your story. You can also add your captions under your pictures if you want to. And there's also a chat box on your bottom right-hand screen, which I'll show you where that is. So if you have questions about ZSuites and the program, if you're having any type of technical issue, they are available live to help you, okay? So just as a reminder, if you have questions in regards to your record book, as far as maybe where something goes in that record book, that's a question you would ask your county agent. So the chat box for technical support is for problems or questions you have with the actual program itself. All right, so here's where it is for the icon to add your pictures. So I'm in the 4-H story and photo portfolio section, and you can see it's just a blank box, and you can type on the little green pin and actually type your story in there. Or another handy feature you can do is to type your story in, say, like Microsoft Word, where you have more formatting capabilities, and then you can copy and paste it into this section. So you would type it in Word and then use your copy function and then paste it right into this story box, per se. All right, so if we want to add a picture, there's a little picture icon at the very top of the screen, and you would just click on that, and it would go to, it asks you to browse your computer, and you would go to the file where that picture was located, click on your picture, insert, and then after it's in your story, you can resize that photograph. All right, and here's where you can find the chat box. It's on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Whenever you're in ZSuites, it will always be right there. It'll just pop up at the very bottom. And so you can either send an email, you can do live chat if you're between the times of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Central Time. You'll actually get a real person. I tried this out. It was not a computer. I talked to Sam, and Sam answered all my questions about how I needed to enter pictures in ZSuites. And the best part, if you do a live chat, or even if you do an email question, they will send you a transcript of your question and their answer to your email address, which is really helpful in case you need to go back and review their instructions. Then you have a hard copy of that transcript and those steps. So that's really nice. Let's say you've got your record keeping all done. You've entered all your information into your record book. You can preview your record book within ZSuites. You can edit it and go back and change it. So this is a great program to use year after year. So you can actually add information each year, and you don't have to recreate your record book and recreate those forms and the information, because you can renumber all the information that you've entered in those tables by level of importance. So say you do something later on that's more important and you need to now put that as number 1. Well, you just add it as level importance 1, and it will shuffle all the other items that you've previously entered last year or the year before and move them down in your list. So that's a very helpful tool that way, and you don't have to redo and remove everything around on your traditional record book forms like you've had to do in the past. All right, so you can also share your record book. Maybe you have a favorite English teacher that's going to review your record book for you and give you some editorial comments, you can do that. You can also download it as a PDF and print it or send it as an email attachment. And soon we are looking at adding this component, and hopefully this will be added in 2021, that we can submit those electronically to a reviewer, your county agent, or for judging. So that is being considered for the very near future, and information will come out soon on that. But in the meantime, regular hard copy record books will be accepted through 2021. When you get ready to print a record book, on the very left-hand column, all the way at the bottom, it says record book. So when you click on that button, you're going to get this screen, and it's going to ask you, do you want to download your record book, or you want to print it, or you want to submit it? Right now, you can download and print. The submit button is not active, and it will not be active until that feature is turned on and we move to the electronic submission of record books. But right now, you are able to download that as a PDF, and it will download to your computer, and then you can add that as an attachment and send it to somebody to review, or maybe your county agent wants you to submit it that way. And so that's a great feature and way that you can share that electronically without having to go somewhere in person. We've covered ZSuites. It is an awesome, super easy system that will help you in keeping up with all your records and your activities. But the main thing is you have to use it. So if you use it, you'll be able to retain that information from year to year and easily print your forms for your record book. It will be released very, very soon, a mobile platform, so you can actually access ZSuites on your phone. So maybe you're at a show and you want to enter that activity, you've got some downtime. Well, you'll be able to go onto your phone on an app and put that information in to whichever section it goes into right there, and do your record keeping on the go, which will be very, very handy for you. And as I said, in the near future, after 2021, we're going to have the ability to submit our record books electronically from ZSuites and have them judged electronically, which will be very nice and helpful, especially if we can't get together in person.